You want to create your theme of your case by those perfectly phrased questions. 1, 2, 3. So it's a perfect soundbite for the jury later. You just have to keep pushing. You backtrack and then you just hammer them with all 3 of those points. I think that that's so important to develop in every witness.
Hey out there, welcome back to the Nursing Home Abuse Podcast. My name is Rob. I will be your host for this episode. I think this is kind of a special episode, not just because we have a fantastic guest in Dawn Smith. She's a fantastic trial lawyer, etc. This is an interesting special episode because this is kind of the first episode of what I would say is season 4, maybe? Season 4? Yeah. We started this in 2017, and by the way we record the episodes, I recorded a ton of episodes at the beginning of 2024. And now all those episodes have played out, and now I'm in the process of batch recording a whole bunch more episodes, which will slowly start to publish every week in 2025 and into 2026. And this just happens to be the one that I recorded the very first in 2025. So I think that when this comes out, you will be drinking your shamrock shakes, and maybe the weather will be nice and springtimey when this comes out. But a couple of shakeups with the podcast. I feel like the joke of the week, the nursing home regulation, the ChatGPT generated nursing home joke of the week, I'm not sure that did not land in the way that I thought it would. So I think that we are now, not that I think, I know we're going to get rid of that. So if you liked that, let me know. Maybe we'll bring it back. Maybe if one of the 6 people that listen to this program regularly, I guess the half dirty dozen, if one of you guys wants to see that back, maybe we'll bring it back. But in its place, I'm going to try to hit you with some trivia, some nursing home or long-term care trivia each week, and we'll see how that goes. But no more ChatGPT generated nursing home regulation joke of the week. That certainly didn't receive the accolades that I thought it would. But we still have the question of the week. So we're still going to do the question of the week. And something special with the question of the week, we're going to be adding a special kind of enticement for you to participate in the question of the week. All right, so I'm going to be like Publishers Clearinghouse now. I'm going to be Ed McMahon, and that's a reference that if you're literally, I'm probably the cutoff age for understanding who Ed McMahon is. How about this? I'm like Mr. Beast. There you go for the youngsters. I'm going to be Mr. Beast from week to week. You will be able to win a fantastic nursing home abuse podcast coffee mug, and I'm going to put that in my hand right here. Oh, there you go. Blink. Thanks, Gene. A little bit of CGI. I don't have them yet. I promise I'll get them. I don't have them yet. But by the time this episode comes out, I will have a Nursing Home Abuse Podcast coffee mug for you to win. How do you win it, you might ask? Well, it's super simple. Whenever I do the question of the week, you need to go to my TikTok, which is at Justice for Residents on TikTok. Find the question of the week for that week, and then input the answer to the question of the week. So it's going to be A, B, or C, as well as for this week. This is for this particular episode, for this question, you need to put your favorite snack. So for example, Cheez-Its, Cool Ranch Doritos, or maybe even taco flavored Doritos. Go to TikTok, go to the question, put the correct answer in, so it's A, B, or C, and then put in your favorite snack. My favorite snack, I think at this time, is going to be nacho-flavored Doritos. So that's how you can win a fantastic coffee mug with the question of the week. And without further ado, let's actually get into the question of the week. This week, I'm going to say it's probably medium hard. It's medium hard. So if you get it right, round of applause. Maybe ask for a little bit of extra green in your shamrock shake this week. Under 42 CFR 483.15C1, which regulates the conditions under which a resident may be discharged or transferred, What is an allowable reason for the facility to involuntarily discharge a resident? What is an allowable reason for the facility to involuntarily discharge a resident? Is it A, the facility can no longer meet the resident's needs? B, the facility needs to make room for a new resident? Or C, Medicare has stopped payment? That answer is A, the facility can no longer meet the needs of the resident, which allows the facility to invoke an immediate involuntary discharge of the resident. All right, folks. So again, to win the mug, go to TikTok at Justice for Residents, type in the correct answer, which you know the answer now is A, but also now you have to put your snack in. And that's how we're going to know that you listen to this podcast.
Nursing home and long-term care trivia of the week.
Here's something that's tough to hear. Even with strong state laws in place, many nursing home residents still suffer due to staffing shortages. A July 17, 2024 article from the New York Times revealed that many facilities are failing to meet minimum staffing requirements, which has a huge impact on patient care and negative outcomes. Even when there are laws to ensure adequate staffing, some nursing homes still cut corners to save costs. This means residents aren't getting the care they need, leading to higher risk for neglect like falls and pressure injuries. Laws can only do so much if they aren't improperly enforced, and this issue is a reminder that we must hold facilities accountable to protect our most vulnerable. Adequate staffing is not an option, it's a requirement, and it's for the good and the safety of each and every resident. It's like a safety net with holes. Just because it's there doesn't mean it'll catch you if you fall. We need to patch those holes and make sure everyone gets the care that they deserve.
Nursing home and long-term care trivia of the week.
All right, enough of the tomfoolery. It's time to get into the meat and potatoes of the episode. But we are not talking about nursing home depositions by ourselves. We have the fantastic trial lawyer, Don Smith, to help us along. Don Smith developed a passion for law in 8th grade after witnessing an oral argument at the Supreme Court. The first in her family to graduate college, she earned her law degree from Whittier Law School. As co-founder of Smith Kline Smith, LLP, she advocates for victims of nursing home abuse and neglect nationwide. Her trial team secured recently a historic $322 million asbestos verdict, which is amazing. It's amazing. She is actually also a fellow podcaster. She has a fantastic podcast called Ladies in Law, which is redefining success and empowering change in business and law. That's the tagline, but it's Ladies in Law is the name of the podcast, which she co-hosts with Lisa Goucher and Kelly Raymond. So be sure to check that out. The link to that podcast will be in the show notes. Another fun fact is that she bartended for 8 years before law school. And here she is today serving us up, not with drinks, but with incredible knowledge. Dawn, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be on. I love what you do on this. I mean, I've learned a lot from you listening to your podcast, so it's pretty exciting.
Oh, wow. Thank you. I appreciate that. So I have had a couple of episodes centered around the philosophy of depositions in nursing home cases. Some people are saying, Rob, I think we should go in and attack the lower level people first and then go corporate last, or vice versa. I've heard everything in between. Okay. And I guess depending on the attorney, there's no right or wrong. I'm so happy that you're on the show. You were a highly successful trial attorney. I want to get your perspective on this. How do you approach depositions in nursing home cases, whether it's who do you go first, like what you're asking, whether you're going for kill shots, these type of things, just kind of and I know that's a general question, but I guess do the best you can with it.
Yeah, well, I'll say, first of all, kill shots are the best thing to have. There's no reason to take a deposition and just like old school going through every single thing that they've ever done in their life. And, where were you on Tuesday? And then what did you eat for lunch on Thursday? Depositions are expensive. They're incredibly expensive nowadays. And we videotape all of our depositions. So I think the most important thing to do during a deposition is get key admissions. Get key admissions and making sure that you're laying the foundation to get all of your best evidence in. So that's really my strategy when it comes to what you need to get. Mark Lanier, I went through his trial college that he has in Austin, and he's amazing. Just $1 billion verdict after verdict after verdict. And when he was a young lawyer and he was working for somebody else that was very experienced, he said, hey, I want you to take this depo. He's like, okay, his first depo. And so he prepares lots of time. And the partner comes in and goes, do you know what you need to get? And he's like, yeah, well, I think I do. And kind of hemmed and hawed around a little bit. And he's like, well, come on, let's go. Let's go. I'll do it. You come with me. And he sat down and asked like 2 questions, and that was it. Right. It was just establishing liability. It was an oil rig, and should the floor where people are working around really dangerous equipment, should it be safe? Should it be wet ever? And he was like, well, no. He's like, okay, I don't have any other questions. So that really opened my eyes, and I think about that a lot when I'm taking a deposition. So that's my strategy overall.
How do you typically approach, let's just say that it's a typical, oh, I don't say a typical, let's just say that it's a pressure injury case, and you have in front of you the director of nursing, for example. Are you, when you, right as you sit down, are you drilling them on a particular point, or do you do you spend a few minutes building rapport? Like typically, and I'm not trying to make you give your special sauce or anything like that, but we talk about the quote unquote kill shots, but are you doing that right up front, or are you trying to build something with this particular witness?
Most of the time I don't do it right up front. Most of the time I do try to build a little bit of rapport, but I don't spend a lot of time on that. The most important things for me for a director of nursing is to talk about policies and procedures, to get really kind of the standard of care, the fact that they're there to keep the residents safe, that everybody's supposed to be following them. And then the job descriptions are super helpful. What the responsibility levels, and then who they report to. You've got to start going up the chain of command with every single deposition that you take. So I build a little bit of rapport with them, but then I start getting admissions as soon as I've done that.
I feel like sometimes, at least in my experience, it's not like you give what you get, but sometimes with the first couple questions, you know this person, and so they're already hostile to you. Or it could be this is a person that's this is a frontline person. I'm going to take it easy on them and maybe lead them into traps versus just bonking them on the head. Do you find that yourself? You change your strategy based on how the witness has approached you?
100%. I tell everybody when we're training our associates, you should have an outline. You need to have, your topics that you need to hit so that you make sure you get everything that you need. But I don't use that outline step 1, step 2, step 3. I think that so many people that are taking depositions fail to listen to what the other person is saying. Really listen and take them where they want to go, as opposed to taking them where you want to go right then. Your questions can wait if you feel like you're going to get a lot of great information going down this path with them. So I go down paths. They pick the path, and I go down that path with them, and then I go back to get where I need to be on my outline.
So I had Roger Dodd on the podcast in the not too distant past, and he was kind of describing what you have described, which is to say that know where you want to go and have that kind of outline, but it's okay if the deponent wants to take you into a certain spot, and I think what's interesting for him, and something that I've adopted, and I get a lot of pushback from other attorneys that don't agree with this, and I would love to get your insight on this. I do leading questions. I type out every single question as a leading question, and I try to get every single one of them in exactly the way that I have written it. Now, if they want to go off and do something, I'll let them, but it always comes back to that. And I don't know, some people, it's just, they don't want to be married at all to a script. Is kind of where do you fall on that?
So I think you've got to get your rules, especially with your director of nursing and your administrator. You want to get your rules, and you want to create your theme of your case by those perfectly phrased questions. I think that what I do is I usually kind of push to get what I want. And then I come back over and then use those perfectly phrased questions, 1, 2, 3. So it's a perfect soundbite for the jury later. So, sometimes they struggle with you and they don't really answer the way you want, but if you push them a certain way, you'll get it. You just have to keep pushing, and then you backtrack, and then you just hammer them with all 3 of those points that you want to establish your rules for the case, the ones that you're going to use, with every witness throughout the case. I think that that's so important to develop in every witness.
So typically, Dawn, how are you using, or if at all, your depositions to increase the case value? So what are some of the core things that you're doing with those depositions?
Well, so from our perspective, the defendants are always wanting to take it down the medicine side. I feel like so many people just get bogged down by the medicine and, what was happening to that person on a daily basis, what their actual injuries are. And while the injuries are really important, you've got to establish a systemic failure. That's what every deposition is for. I'm so sorry. You might have to lock that out.
No, that's staying in. That's amazing. Wow, it's a cute dog.
Yeah, she comes to the office with me every once in a while, and she's ready. She's ready to kind of run through the office. I don't let her do it. She is our chief happiness operator, our chief happiness executive. So
there you go. CHE. Nice.
But so I mean, you've got to build those systemic failures in each deposition. And if you do that, when the defendants start arguing with you about, well, she was sick, she was dying anyway, you just pull off of that and say, yeah, but look at these admissions that I got from your director of nursing that, they're understaffed. They've been understaffed. The only reason they couldn't provide the care that they needed was because they didn't have sufficient staff. And who makes those decisions about staffing? It's the higher ups. So I think that that's really the best way to use them to increase the value. I also use them for damages. So I'll ask the director of nursing, is a stage 4 pressure wound, is that painful? What is a debridement like for somebody like this that can't move and has to lay a certain way? What is that like for them? Those questions really throw them off. They're not expecting those questions, but you can get lots of great stuff on damages for all of your witnesses just by asking about facts that are specific to the harm that happened in your case.
That's a fantastic idea. I as I sit here, I've never thought about that. Literally asking them about that. What's the pain level of having a scalpel to a wound like that? I've done before the concept of did you ever see the resident laugh? Did you ever see the resident tell a joke or react in a playful way to something when they want to argue that this person was already out the door or this person was depressed or old, sick, and dying type of thing. But the damages component, I had not heard that. That's a great idea.
Yeah, because you can always, and then if you hit it every single time, at the end of every witness, you pull all your people up, and then you're at trial, and then you ask those last questions just to remind the jury that this is a real person that really went through something that was incredibly awful. And you can do it with all your witnesses.
So you mentioned earlier kind of building the case of this is not just a matter of maybe a couple of nurses on the front line messing up. This is the injury as a result of something that's a larger systemic problem. So with that in mind, is there typically an order in which you approach depositions in a nursing home case? Do you do a certain frontline people first, and then going up the corporate ladder? To tell me about that. How do you structure that? Structure it that way.
In my view and in my opinion, you want to lock down the important people first, because they're usually the higher level people are a little bit more savvy. And if you take depositions of the CNAs and everything first, then the higher up people mold their testimony to explain away what was happening at the lower levels. So you want to shoot. Here.
That's okay. I can barely hear it. It's just like a boop.
So you want to definitely lock those people in, lock the director of nursing in, and lock the administrator in on what their testimony is going to be, so they can't change it later. So we usually do the administrator, the director of nursing, and a few PMK depositions first. That's almost, we almost always do it that way. The only reason I wouldn't do it that way is if I had like a former employee that was brilliant, that was just gonna completely hammer them. I might take that one first, but we pretty much in almost every case do those three first: PMK, person most knowledgeable and qualified, or corporate representative, the director of nursing, and the administrator.
So your PMK deposition that you're describing, that you're doing at the beginning of the case, do you typically get into the substance of the case? Like, are you asking, like, what's your position with respect to skin condition at the beginning of the admission or at the end, or things like that? Or is it like kind of the Mark Kozorotsky document deposition?
Yeah, I would say it's a crossover. Most of it is where the documents, where all the bodies buried, right? And so when we're doing our motion to compel, we don't have to deal with this attorney BS where they're like, "Yeah, we don't know what that is. What is that name? We have no idea what that document is." And oh, that would be incredibly difficult to get. That would cost us thousands of hours to get. If you take the deposition of this person, they're like, "Yeah, we just click a button and it prints up a report," and that extinguishes all of those ridiculous lawyer created ways to not give us the documents that we're entitled to. So it's mainly just to find out where everything is and that it's easy to get it.
For anybody that's listening that does nursing home stuff, actually probably pretty much any case, but like particularly nursing home stuff, you have to get Mark Kozorotsky's book, which is, I guess it's just 30B6 depositions or whatever. I've got the book, the second edition, the DVD. Oh, Don's going to pull it out. There it is. Yep. 30B6 depositions. Like, this is a brilliant book. And as Don has described, it's kind of, he suggests that you use an initial 30B6 or PMK deposition to get around arguments about discovery, like what's confidential, how can this be peer reviewed, this kind of stuff. And it's a great book. I highly recommend it. Actually, he was on the podcast. He was one of my first guests, but we didn't talk about that. Maybe I should have him back on, talk about 30B6 depositions.
He has a new book out too that's all about motions to compel.
Yeah.
And that's great too. You got it?
Yeah. Over here, deposition obstruction, breaking through.
Yep. There you go.
I'm a nerd. So I've got all these books.
That's what we do.
So Don, any other advice that you would give in terms of just in general nursing home depositions as we kind of wrap up?
I think that a lot of people don't spend the time preparing on the front end for depositions. You have some standard questions that you're going to ask people every single time, but you need to look at the policies and procedures. You need to highlight them. You need to make sure that you know what you need to get right when you're going into it. But you want to craft your rules before you go into it. I just think you need to sit down and figure out what you want your case to be and really use that structure throughout the course of all of your depositions. And that takes time. That takes time. It takes thought. It takes preparation. So I think that a lot of people don't spend the time that they need to kind of developing their themes in the case before they start taking depositions. So I would just encourage people to spend a little more time to figure out where the pain points are, where the highlights are in the case, things that are really going to be compelling, and honing in on that. And you don't have to take 8-hour depos. You really don't. I think people take really long depos, and I know I took really long depos when I first started practicing, and I still have a hard time kind of letting go and moving on if I get a bone that I think is going to take me to the right place. So I'm still learning how to let things go, but preparation and just knowing when to quit and move on. I think those are the two things that are very helpful to get succinct, great deposition testimony that you can use to increase the value of your case and use to win at trial.
I think that those are lessons that I need to learn. I'm still taking 7-hour depositions myself. Like, I'm still going through, I want to try to get every single, as you mentioned, you said this? All right, let's talk about this for a little while. But I've been using Saul Gruber as a jury consultant or not a jury consultant, as a focus group consultant on cases, and he gets so mad at me because he's like, Rob, these depositions are 250 pages. Like, what are you doing? I'm like, sorry, man. Like, this is how I do it right now. You just got to bear with me. So I'm also trying to trim the fat, or I'm trying to learn to trim the fat. So I feel you on that. I'm learning that lesson. Well, Don, I really appreciate you coming on the show. As I mentioned at the top of the show, you are the first guest of, I guess, this new season. I don't know if it's season 3 or 4, but I appreciate your time and your knowledge.
Well, thank you for having me on. I really enjoyed it. And I really am entertained by some of the little things that you do on your podcast. I think they're really fun. Really fun. I was watching one that I was like, wow, okay, this is cool. He's kind of cutting away and doing all this cool stuff. So I really enjoy it. Thanks for doing what you do.
Thank you. All right, folks, I hope that you enjoyed, I guess, what would be the beginning of this new season. If there are things that you are enjoying about the podcast, let me know. If there's things that you're not enjoying about the podcast, let me know. Except if it's me. If you're not enjoying me, I can't help you. I got to do it. Unless AI comes for my job, then I guess you're good. But much appreciation to that dirty half dozen that continually listens to or watches every single episode. I really appreciate your support. If you have an idea for a topic, let me know. If you have an idea for a guest that you would like for me to talk to, let me know that as well. New episodes of the Nursing Home Abuse Podcast come out every single week. And with that, folks, we'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in to the Nursing Home Abuse Podcast. Nothing said on this podcast, either by the host or the guest, should be construed as legal or medical advice, nor is intended to create an attorney-client relationship between the host or their guest and the listener. New episodes for now are available every other Monday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or on your favorite podcast app, as well as on YouTube and our website, nursinghomeabusepodcast.com. Again, that's nursinghomeabusepodcast.com. See you next time.